So lately I've been battling with the perfectionist mindset. I think that it's something that I've developed at a very young age, but I'm finally able to kind of tell when it's kicking in, when it's causing me to procrastinate. And I feel like the main part of my life that I can see it most clearly in is when I'm making videos, because I feel so called to make like these perfect videos. I want everything to be perfect. I want my thumbnails to be perfect. I want my videos and my script to be perfect. I want my editing to be perfect. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel like these videos are good enough for me to put out there. And I've kind of been able to see how the perfectionist mindset bleeds into other parts of my life. It's kind of taken over altogether because I've just been feeling very suffocated with all the rules that I've set for myself in order for me to create this like perfect life. I feel like I've convinced myself that if I don't create this perfect life, then I'm not going to be happy. So I don't feel happy unless I do something in the most perfect way, which is quite literally impossible because nothing is perfect in life. I've completely just stopped doing a lot of things. Like I stopped going to the gym, I stopped doing my skincare routine, I stopped doing my morning routine, I stopped journaling because I was fully in this perfectionist mindset where I was like, well, if I can't do it perfectly, then I guess I'm just not going to do it altogether. And I was always waiting for this like perfect mood that I was going to be in, or this perfect situation for me to get things done. For example, if I were recording videos, I had to make sure that I had the perfect block of time put together to make a video, and I had to make sure that my equipment was set up perfectly and that I had the perfect makeup on. And so in order to cope with it, I actually decided I was just gonna sit down and record this video without the perfect makeup. It's like 12 a.m. right now and I'm recording a video, so it's not the perfect time to do it either. But I really just wanted to start getting myself in the mindset of like, you can't wait till things are like perfect or a situation is perfect before doing something. I felt like I had to be this perfect person, so I was constantly looking for things that I had to fix about myself, and I was constantly building habits to improve myself, and it got extremely tiring. Like I was so sick of life. My schedule was just packed with things that I didn't want to do, but it was more of like I did it because I felt like it was gonna make me this like perfect whole person. The reason that we have a schedule is so that we can create a day that we love and enjoy. It was about finding the balance between what was good and what felt good and what was just necessary in order for us to function. When I create my schedule, I don't just stack it with my to-do list. I genuinely just sit down with myself and I have to really remind myself like, okay, when we're creating this schedule, it's not about checking off the to-do list to ease your anxiety. It's not about checking off my to-do list because I wanted everything to be perfect and I wanted no flaws and nothing wrong with my life. It is about, what do I want my day to look like? What is going to make me happy? What's a good balance? What's a good way for me to compromise and do the things that I like and also get the things that I don't like done? One thing I struggle with the most is how I view myself. I begin to get like extremely frustrated with myself at the fact that I'm not perfect. I get frustrated at myself when I make a mistake, and I feel like I ruminate on mistakes more when I'm stuck in the perfectionist mindset. I also berate myself more when I do something wrong, and I can see it in volleyball, in the way that I interact with people, and I end up like playing over and over again a situation in my head and thinking like, oh, I could have done that right. I could have done that right. And then this constant mode of like, I need to improve, I need to grow. And it's actually very debilitating because it was supposed to be something that's supposed to fuel me, where, you know, with some people, maybe like they just constantly do something over and over again until they can perfect it. But for me, when I'm stuck in my perfectionist mindset, I actually feel like I can't do anything because there is no perfect situation to get anything done and for me to expect the result to be perfect, it would be impossible, right? Because I guess like I don't feel unworthy all the time, but I also struggle with the idea of like it's okay for you to be who you are. When you're raised with conditional love, it's very difficult for you to genuinely believe like you're good enough being just who you are. This perfectionist mindset feels like a coping mechanism for that idea. It becomes like an excuse for why we have to do everything perfectly. It becomes like this like defense, right? So, because when you mess up, you have to be vulnerable. You have to say, oh, sorry, like I made a mistake, and admit to being wrong. And the hardest thing is when you don't do things perfectly and you feel that you've made a mistake or you have made a mistake, that feeling of unworthiness kicks in. And it's something that we try to avoid a lot, which is why we like to do things perfectly, because if you do it perfectly, then that feeling of not being good enough or not being worthy will go away. It makes me extremely angry on the inside. It makes me angry towards myself. It makes me angry towards other people. It gets so bad to the point where I would be doing dishes and I'd wonder if I'm like doing them efficiently enough. That's how bad like my perfectionist mindset can get. And it's exhausting because I'm constantly doing the math of like, is this the most efficient time to be doing something? Is this the most efficient way to be doing this thing? It's just not a way to live life. When we make decisions based off of what we want to do every day, it's not everything is about, is this efficient? Sometimes it's about, does it make me happy? It's hard to do long-term projects because the more I do something, the more it sheds light on things that I need to work on. And my perfectionist mindset does not like that, because then I feel like super unworthy of doing that thing, or I'm not satisfied with my results. I was shamed as a child for making mistakes. I was yelled at a lot. So it became like a negative thing for me to make mistakes. And I had to reteach myself that making mistakes and not being perfect is just part of the human experience. And no one's gonna blame me. No one is yelling at me now for making mistakes. But it is important to own up to it. And dealing with that shame is the hardest part when it comes to making mistakes, because that feeling of unworthiness really does come up very strongly. And it's something that I personally would like to avoid because it's so uncomfortable sometimes. It's really important for us to be compassionate, like acknowledge that inner critic voice, because the longer you ignore it, the more that voice comes back even louder, and it just gets so annoying, and it feels like anger from inside out, just you screaming at you in your head, and you get angry at everybody else too, because you're like, why isn't everyone else perfect? I have to sit down with myself, and I usually journal. I know I talk about journaling a lot, but journaling is really important, and I just write down all the things that I feel like I'm not perfect at. Acknowledging the emotions that come up when I think about like, oh, I'm not perfect in this area is the most healing part for me, because for the most part, it's probably my inner child just feeling neglected and feeling like ashamed that I'm doing something wrong. We're supposed to be taught that messing up is okay as long as we take the time to go and fix it, and we learn from the mistake, and we don't make the same mistakes over and over again. But when you're raised to be taught that making mistakes is something that's shameful, that there's something inherently wrong with you if you do make a mistake, or if you're shamed for it in front of other people, punished in any way negatively, then the perfectionist mindset is one of those things that becomes a coping mechanism. If you never mess up, then there's nothing wrong with you. Never mess up. You're never gonna get punished. But the problem with that is that there are so many things that takes mistakes in order for us to learn, in order for us to get good at. And it stops us from achieving those next levels of things that we want to try. I was kind of like the fixer. I think a lot of people become like the fixer of their household, and you create this perfectionist mindset. The way that my perfectionist mindset developed was I didn't want to fix problems. I was getting tired of fixing problems. So instead, I had this control issue where I would want the perfect scenario and I wanted everything to be perfect, to line up perfectly. I didn't want any mistakes in my life. I didn't want any like problems in my life because I was sick of fixing problems. When you're an adult and you're adulting, there are literally problems every single day. And my way of coping with these problems was not very efficient in solving the problems that exist in your life. Like, you can't escape the fact that problems exist in the adult life. I was coping with it by just straight up ignoring a lot of my problems because I just like could not deal with the fact that my life wasn't perfect. Like, I needed it to be perfect so that things wouldn't go wrong, and I didn't want to fix things. It was exhausting. And my way out of that rut normally is I have to comfort my inner child a little bit and say like, hey, like this is a situation that we're gonna get through. You're not solving it alone. You can ask for help if you need to, but it is something that is necessary and we're doing it for ourselves. So let's just take one day at a time. It literally feels like my world is falling apart when there are problems in my life. At the end of the day, a lot of compassion is needed in order for us to overcome this perfectionist mindset. It comes back, it sneaks into your life because it's been a while. Like, it's been a huge part of my life for so long that I constantly need reminders. When I procrastinate, I know like, oh, my perfectionist mindset is kicking in because I'm generally worried about whether or not the situation's gonna go right. I'm worried about the results. But the only thing is that if I'm worried about the results, I don't even start to face the problems, and the problems just pile up. Sometimes I do get really hard on myself because I'm like, dang, that's something that I should have known. Like, I should have known that. I've done it before. Like, why did I make that mistake? Having a perfectionist mindset and sharing it with you guys has been on my mind for a long time. I should urge you guys to go head on, face the feeling, try to comfort yourself and be compassionate towards yourself about making mistakes. Everyone knows the idea of having like a pie, and your life is like a pie and every slice is a different thing. One slice is like, say, your home life, another slice is like your friendships, another slice is your relationship, another slice is like how much time you spend on work, etc., etc. So you can have like a million different slices depending on like how much stuff you do in your life. It is not about having a perfect pie. It's about being able to have many different slices, and so you can like dip into each slice. So just pretend the different slices of pies are like different flavors. You want more flavors rather than this perfect pie sitting in your life. It's okay to be doing maybe about 70% of one thing one day, and then maybe like 30% of something else one day. Because as long as you're moving forward, you still have that upward progression. Thank you all for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.